Next up, we've got the Portland Trailblazers, and there's plenty to talk about over in Portland. Obviously, Drew Holiday, he's back. Dame Lillard, back in the town, not back in the team just yet. He'll spend the year on the sidelines. And Denny Avdija, plenty of people talking about him and going pretty early in mock drafts. We'll have a chat about it all next. G'day everybody, welcome back to the Ball Logic Fantasy Basketball Podcast. I'm your host Braino and I'm joined by Matrix in the studio to talk all things Portland Trailblazers today, mate. There's a bit going on, isn't there, in Portland? You know, Dame's back, which is a nice feel-good story, but I don't know how much more feel-good stuff there is to happen in Portland this year. How do you see them going? Because they had a bit of a mixed year last year.
I expect them to be a lottery pick this year, and that's probably being polite. But to be honest, I think they'll be okay with that. I think that's kind of where they want to be. And look, they've added some assets. They're probably going to grow from within, hopefully this year. And yeah, I mean, like they've made some moves for success next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, obviously, with Dame on the sideline, I think that probably echoes your point that they're going to kind of look to lean in to support him next year when he comes back. There's still a lot of question marks on this team, though. What are they going to do with Scoot Henderson this year? Does he play the same role behind Drew Holiday? Does Drew drop back to the bench? Denny Avdija, does he take the next step up? They've lost DeAndre Ayton, so how do they play Donovan Clingan and Young Hansen? There's a lot of questions and not many answers, to be honest, at this point of the season. Jeremy Grant as well. Is he actually going to play some March basketball? I don't know whether I have any of these answers, but I think we'd probably lean towards trends continuing with Jeremy Grant. We'll talk about this in a fair bit more, mate. But 36 and 46 isn't exactly anything to write home about. Good enough for 12th in the West. I think so. Yeah, I think you're right. Without Dame and obviously trading away Anthony Simons as well. Mate, from a transactional point of view, they've got Drew Holiday. I'd love to talk about him maybe first. We usually do things in order of top guns into mid-range value in the drafts. Let's start with Drew, because how do you see this playing out with him and Scoot? Because I think if Scoot can get a start or can get some significant minutes, there's some upside there for him. How do you see that all playing out?
Yeah, I don't know if day one Scoot starts, but Scoot is my starting caliber point guard, I suppose, in this. I think that they'll use Drew Holiday I think he'll be traded to a contender this year. But I think that they'll use Drew Holiday and Damian Lillard to sort of train and, I suppose, hand some expertise onto Scoot. He's an extremely talented guy that we definitely have seen nowhere near his ceiling. He's been, to be frank, a disappointment when it comes to fantasy. We're playing 9-cat leagues, so yeah, he has kind of struggled when you're looking at that. But look, the guy should be able to score. He's had 15 points per game and 6 assists. I do expect him to be the starting point guard, and yeah, it'll just be what they get back for, a Drew Holiday, or maybe even move on a Jeremy Grant or somebody like that. But I think it'll be picks, which won't affect the team. So.
Yeah, and they've got to make a big sacrifice if they want to move on Grant, because there's still $100 million owed to Jeremy Grant over the next 3 seasons. What a contract that's been. So yeah, there's a lot of sacrifice they'd need to make. I don't know whether they're willing to make that kind of a sacrifice to move, or anybody is going to want to pay that kind of money to get a guy that doesn't often play at the back end of the year. So yeah, I think they're a little bit kind of stuck in that respect, but I do agree. I think Drew Holiday is probably the one that gets dealt at some point. We saw it happen when he went in Portland last time, only lasted a couple of weeks, and off he was to Boston. So, I'd probably tend to agree in that respect. And, look, if Scoot becomes a starter, or if we find out the start of the season they lean into Scoot at the 1 and Drew wants to play a bench role like he did in Boston at different times last year, I mean, there's plenty of top 100 upside, I think, in Scoot. He's going as low as 130. In mock drafts at the moment, which I think is way too late.
Yeah, he was like the 143rd, or, he was just really low last year. But look, opportunity has presented itself again. If I'm going to take a risk on a guy, it's going to be on somebody that's a little bit younger, that you hope develops. And like the right tools are around him to, I think, take that next leap forward. So, like, whether it be him starting the two and Drew starting the two, it doesn't really matter for me. I think the roles there, I think the minutes will be there. Like, what did he play? 30 minutes per game last year. Like, if he's playing 30 minutes per game, most basketball players playing out on the floor for that long has some fantasy value. So
Yeah, that's it. 26.7 minutes last year. So if he takes a bit of a bump there, that's good signs for him. There's kind of 7 players that fit into 5 starters, really, isn't there? So I guess it's the question of who starts off the bench, and if it's Scoot and Drew's at point guard, who's the other one? Because they've got Shaden Sharp, who was good offensively and pretty poor defensively. He ended up getting benched by Chauncey Billups at different times through last year due to the defensive deficiencies that he had. Chauncey Billups, as a coach, being a very old school kind of guy, very high value on defense, and Sharp, not a good defender. Scoot, small, so that probably plays against him a little bit. But I think that the one that we can lock in to start is Denny Avdija. How do you feel about him this year? Because I reckon there's probably the most upside in him across this starting 5. How do you feel about him?
yeah, I've been a Denny fan for a few years now. I've got him in some of our dynasty formats, and just a little bit of a Mr. Fix It. Look, if you tell me that he's a top 50 guy, I wouldn't spit in your face. I think realistically he's probably a 55 to 70 guy, and he's getting drafted in and around that as well. I'm not sure there's a heap of value there, but look, if he took the next step forward, you couldn't talk me out of it. Maybe I'm just a bit negative on Portland. I'm trying to find some positives. I think Scoot could be a good pick, but yeah, Denny will be a good pick. I just not, I don't see him being a top 30 guy or a top 40 guy.
Yeah, look, there were different points at the start, especially at the end of the year where he came home with a wet sail. So it's hard to see him kind of maintaining that kind of value, that he was putting up at the back end of the year. At the moment, he's being drafted at 62 on Yahoo, 100 on ESPN, which is way off, and 53 on Fantrax, which I think is maybe a little early. I'm probably in that 6th round department from 60 to 72. I think if he fell into the 6th round for me, I'd be more than happy to pick him up depending on the build. But you're right, he is a Mr. Fix-It. He doesn't really necessarily hurt you anywhere. His free throw come up last year, his field goal percentage come up. He can get you boards. He gets you assists out of position as well. And I guess those assists are probably going to hold too, to be fair, because when you look around him with this starting 5, there's not really many facilitators in this starting 5. If you're going to start with Drew, Shaden Sharp, not a great passer. Jeremy Grant put the ball away, and Donovan Clingan can't. He pretty much only can shoot within 6 inches of the rim. So,
yep.
Yeah. So someone's going to have to facilitate, get the ball moving, and I think it's going to be Avdija, to be fair.
Yeah, and like that point forward role was something we kind of saw from him in Washington. I know that was a little while ago now, but yeah, I could definitely see him play that role. I don't think. Probably a good point for me to say is I don't think he's a bad pick. I'm just not sure you get 15 points of value, which. I'm trying to hit it out of the park and win my league. Like, if you've taken other risks, then sure, take him in this, the 70s when you get your pick. But yeah, just not super excited about it. So,
how much weight do you put into February, March, April basketball? Because he could be the king of February to April basketball. Last year went 23 to 31 points per game, 10 to 13 boards a game, 5 to 7 assists per game, a steal and a block. And that was in April last year across a few games. And then the year before that, he's done the same thing. Shooting from over 500 from the field, 17 to 19 points per game, nearly 10 boards a game, 4 assists. So, when he gets the opportunity, he gets it. But that's with a lot of the guys off the floor that are the main starters that demand the usage. So, naturally, I think that usage comes back. We can't expect February, March, April Denny Avdija to turn up in October.
No, definitely. Definitely not. I think that he was one that could grow on you. So.
For sure. I guess the rest of the starting 5 or the projected starting 5, if we think that, what do you think about Jeremy Grant? Is he going to be starting off the bench this year, do you think? Are they going to lean into Tamani Kamara, who seems to be favoured at this point?
Yeah, I think it is Kamara, just because they will come and try and grow as a team. I think that these guys are coming into the team expecting to be that lottery team. And then, why play Jeremy Grant? Like, if it's a close game, maybe Jeremy Grant closes the game out. But for me, I'm kind of drawing a line through both of them because I think that they cancel each other out and it could be a bit of a timeshare. Look, we play in some deeper leagues and I'm cool to take Kamara there. But like his current ADP was around 100. I'm seeing 99, 107, and 133. Draw a line through ESPN in general. So yeah, if he's getting taken in that early hundreds, I get it. He's young, but I'd rather just take a risk on somebody else that plays for a better team rather than if they're winning, they might play Jeremy Grant. Yeah, I'm not too excited about either of these guys unless it's like a 200 player deep league. So
Yeah, look, if the ADP was 120, 122, I'd be like, cool, this might be a little bit of value there. But when you're getting him at 99 to 107, the value's gone, I think. So, yeah, if he starts to slip in your leagues, happy days. I think he's not a bad late round flyer, but yeah, not a guy I'll be picking up in the, the 8th round, 9th round. I'll probably want him a little bit later than that. So, mate, I guess the last starting player we can talk about is Donovan Clingan, who I think is a pretty decent shout this year. He does have his limitations. Only shoots 600 from the free throw line. Doesn't shoot threes. Not a points guy at all. So he fits into a no points build, which seems to be pretty popular punt strategy in different drafts. He doesn't get you assists or steals. Decent blocks, decent rebounds, field goal percentage, and that's pretty much where it ends. But at the moment, he finished the 161st best player last year. People are taking him really early. I reckon he's being overdrafted, 84 to 95 in mock drafts so far this year. I think that's around at least too early.
Yeah, and if you're taking him at 100, I think there is value. Like it, honestly, I could nearly look at DeAndre Ayton's stats and think if Donovan Clingan is getting that opportunity, that exact same opportunity that he got last year in Portland, I think that he can score as well as that, which makes him a top 70 guy. And I suppose people love to chase the upside and that. So, yeah, maybe it is around too early, but sometimes you do have to get you guys. I think that he could be a top 70 guy this year. And he, outside of Scoot, is the only other guy in this comp that I really find myself taking in these mocks that we've been doing weekly. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's some good late round value in the big men from round 8 onwards, I think. I don't know whether I'm as high as you. I think he's good value probably after the 100 mark. But, yeah, I definitely won't be taking him before then. I'm also concerned about young Hansen, who they seem to be really high on him over in Portland, and I think there's every chance that he plays 22 minutes a game, maybe. I don't know. I just think that the ceiling for Donovan Clingan's minutes this year are like that 25 to 28 minute mark. I just don't see him playing any more than that.
See, I wondered whether the hype, and look, I'm not trying to get into conspiracy theories but I'm not too bad at marketing. I reckon some of the hype with young Hansen is that he is a Chinese basketball player. He is going to sell a hell of a lot of jerseys. So I do wonder whether that is why there's been so much hype about him. Like, he's a good basketball player, obviously a first rounder. I'm just not sure if they should be as high on him as they are Donovan Clingan, especially in his first year.
Yeah. It's going to take some time. There's going to be some teething issues, and of course, there's going to be some deficiencies in his game. So again, it's about where you can get him. But I think there's some value there if you can get him a little bit later. Mate, in terms of Portland though, it's a lot of question marks and not too many answers at this point. But building for next year, I think is the consensus, really, isn't it? There's a bit of value late in drafts. I'll be avoiding Jeremy Grant completely. I like my players in fantasy basketball to be playing at the back end of the season. Last thing I need is a guy sitting on the bench and I have to drop him. So, we've already kind of talked about how we feel like they go. Any extra points you want to talk about with Portland?
I just want to start with saying that I'm not a negative guy. I'm just a bit down on this team a little bit. Like, yes, I think Shaden Sharp is a threes streamer. I think if you get Drew Holiday late, then fine. We know what we're going to get. I think if you are going to try and squeeze some value out, it is your Scoot Hendersons or it is your Donovan Klingans, or maybe even Tamani Kamara if you are that way inclined. I'm personally not. But yeah, look, the young guys are going to take over. It's going to be a bit of a revolution. They're going to get another lottery pick this year, so maybe we're talking about them again next year as an up and coming team with Damian Lillard and Scoot Henderson being honestly an NBA player at that point. But yeah, that's where I sit with Portland, and yeah, I'm not a negative guy. I'm just down on this team when it comes to fantasy basketball.
Yeah, and you've made some good points. I don't think it's about being a negative guy. I just think it's about they're building to the future. They're building to next year when Dame's going to be available for them. This year they'll do everything they can to get a good draft pick, I think, and lean into their young guys and get them more experience, and that's going to be good for Scoot. Hopefully, that's going to be good for Klingon, and Denny Avdija is going to have the keys to the city. I think for the most part, I think he's going to take a big leap forward this year. It's more just a matter of is he going to take top 50 leaps forward. I'm still not 100% sure whether he does, but people will overpay. And you've got to be okay with that. If he goes top 50 in your draft, you've just got to be okay to let him through and not reach for a guy that you're not 100% sure on.
Cool.
That'll do us. That'll do us for Portland Trailblazers. We've got plenty more team previews to come up. I think we've got 6 more to go, guys. And if you want to subscribe to Patreon, you can do that via the link in the description below. We're putting up articles in there every day, of course, as well as our full draft board, 168 players deep. 5 of our experts put their minds together to get their draft boards together and give you an idea on how you can handle your drafts. Thanks for watching, guys. Hit the subscribe and like and hit the hype button on YouTube if you want to help us out, get the show out to more people. Thanks for watching. We'll see you for the next one.
Cheerio.